Dude, if you were forced to stop playing tomorrow, which games would you regret never having experienced? Today isn't about personal taste, it's about experiences that change the way you see games. These are 18 true masterpieces that every gamer needs to play before they die. 1. Mass Effect 2. Let's kick things off with the ultimate space opera, Mass Effect 2. I'm telling you, the suicide mission at the end of this game is probably the most intense sequence I've ever sat through. You play as Commander Shepard, and your job is to build a crew of the most dangerous misfits in the galaxy. But here's the kicker. If you don't take the time to actually get to know them and earn their loyalty, they will die, for good. The gameplay moved away from the clunky RPG menus of the first game and turned into a tight, cover-based shooter that still feels great. But the heart of this game is the Normandy and its crew. Chatting with Mordin Solus about science and Gilbert and Sullivan, or trying to gain Garrus's trust, it makes the world feel alive. The villains, the Collectors, are creepy as hell, but the real enemy is the pressure of being a leader. My only gripe back in the day was the planet scanning. It could be a bit of a grind, but man, when that final mission starts and the music kicks in, you realize every choice you made actually mattered. It's not just a game, it's a legendary story where you are the author. If you haven't sat in the captain's chair of the Normandy, you're missing out on peak gaming history. 2. Batman Arkham City. How do you follow up the perfect stealth game? You open the gates and let the bat fly. Batman Arkham City took everything that worked in Asylum and blew it up to a massive scale. Walking through the snowy, chaotic streets of a cordoned-off section of Gotham is pure atmosphere. The sensation of gliding off a rooftop and diving straight into a group of 20 thugs? Man, nobody does free-flow combat like Rocksteady. The story is basically a love letter to the fans. You've got the Joker, voiced by the legendary Mark Hamill, and he's sick, desperate, and more dangerous than ever. Then you've got Hugo Strange threatening to unleash Protocol 10. The stakes are constantly redlining. Plus, being able to play as Catwoman adds this whole new agile vibe to the movement that I absolutely loved. If I'm being honest, the Riddler trophies can be a massive headache if you're a completionist. There's way too many of them. But the actual boss fights, especially the one with Mr. Freeze, are pure genius. It forces you to use every gadget in your belt because he learns your moves. It makes you feel like the world's greatest detective. It's the gold standard for superhero games. Period. Number 3. Hollow Knight Silksong. Note, since it's now late 2025, we can finally talk about this as a released legend. The wait was agonizing, but Hollow Knight Silksong didn't just meet the hype, it shattered it. Playing as Hornet is a completely different beast than the original Knight. She's faster, she's more vocal, and her silk mechanics make the gameplay feel like a high-speed, lethal dance. Farloom is a stunning kingdom, moving away from the decay of Hallownest into something more vibrant but just as haunted. The sensation of climbing up toward the citadel instead of descending into the earth changes the whole vibe. The platforming is much more vertical, and the new crafting system for tools adds a layer of strategy that I didn't even know I wanted. The bosses? They are brutal. There are over 160 new enemies, and each one feels like a unique puzzle. I remember the first time I hit a Steel Soul run, and my heart was in my throat for 3 hours straight. Some people found the difficulty spike a bit much compared to the first game, and yeah, it'll make you want to throw your controller into the sun sometimes. But the music by Christopher Larkin? Dude, it's transcendent. It's a 10 out of 10 Metroidvania that proves Team Cherry are absolute wizards. If you haven't danced through the Silk and Song yet, hurry up. It's a literal masterpiece. A Plague Tale Requiem. If you want a game that will absolutely wreck your soul, A Plague Tale Requiem is the one. The journey of Amicia and her little brother Hugo is one of the most heartbreaking stories ever told. The impactful emotion here is heavy. Amicia isn't just a protagonist. She's a girl being forced to become a monster to save the person she loves. Watching her mental state fray throughout the game is genuinely difficult to watch, but you can't look away. The gameplay scales up the rat swarms to a terrifying degree. We're talking 300,000 rats on screen at once, literally collapsing buildings. The stealth is tighter, the alchemy is more creative, and the environments, especially the Mediterranean islands, are breathtakingly beautiful, which makes the horror beneath them feel even worse. The villains are often just desperate humans, which makes the whole thing feel grounded and gritty. The pacing can drag a little bit in the middle chapters, but the ending? Man, I was a total mess. I had to sit in silence for like 20 minutes after the credits rolled. It's a masterpiece of atmosphere and acting. Charlotte McBurney's performance as Amicia is easily one of the best in gaming history. It's a dark, poetic, and profoundly moving experience that stays with you forever. Number 5. Lies of P. I'll be honest, when I first heard Souls-like about Pinocchio, I thought it sounded a bit gimmicky, but man was I wrong. Lies of P is a masterclass in atmosphere. The city of Krat feels like a Victorian nightmare, and the sensation of the combat is so crisp, it's that perfect middle ground between Bloodborne and Sekiro. You play as P, and the way you can customize your Legion arms and combine weapon blades with different handles is just genius. It gives you so much agency over how you fight. The story really got under my skin too. The lying mechanic actually changes the ending and how P becomes more human. The villains, especially the Puppet King, have these tragic backstories that make you feel a bit guilty for taking them down. I remember the first time I landed a perfect guard against a massive boss. The spark and the sound design make you feel like a total badass. My only gripe? Some of the platforming sections are a bit finicky and lead to some cheap deaths. But the polish on this game is insane. This didn't feel like progress, it felt like distance. Every time I moved into a new district, the world felt more oppressive and beautiful. It's a tight, challenging, and incredibly stylish masterpiece that proves you don't need to be From Software to make a world-class Souls-like. 6. Black Myth: Wukong. This is easily one of the most visually stunning games I've ever laid eyes on. Black Myth: Wukong is a fever dream of Chinese mythology that feels like a constant boss rush in the best way possible. You play as the Destined One, and the gameplay is all about those transformations and staff techniques. Turning into a flaming monster or freezing an enemy in time to land a heavy blow is just pure dopamine. The bosses are the real stars here. There are dozens of them, and each one feels like a unique spectacle, from giant dragons on frozen lakes to fast-paced duels with rival monkeys. The level of detail in the character designs and the environments is just breathtaking. I found myself stopping every 5 minutes just to use the photo mode. It's a journey through Journey to the West that feels epic and personal at the same time. If I have to be critical, the invisible walls can be a bit frustrating when you're trying to explore, and the map can be a bit confusing since there's no mini-map, but the sheer boss fight quality and the flow of the combat are 10 out of 10. By the end, I wasn't the same person. I felt like I had actually mastered the Monkey King's powers. It's a wild, high-budget ride that every action fan needs to experience. 7. Bloodborne. We can't talk about masterpieces without mentioning Bloodborne. This isn't just a game, it's an obsession. The sensation of stepping into Central Yharnam, the Gothic architecture, the crows, the distant sound of a mob burning a beast is the peak of environmental storytelling. It's a much more aggressive, visceral dance than Dark Souls. The rally system, where you gain health back by hitting enemies right after they hit you, is a rush of adrenaline that I've never found anywhere else.
The story starts as a simple hunt, but descends into some of the most disturbing Lovecraftian cosmic horror ever conceived. The bosses are legendary. Father Gascoigne is still one of the best skill checks in history. I spent hours mastering the parry timing with my blunderbuss, and when it finally clicks, you feel unstoppable. The music, the art, the lore, everything is just perfectly aligned to keep you in a state of dread and wonder. What I don't love, having to farm for blood vials can be a bit of a drag when you're stuck on a hard boss. But the atmosphere is so thick, you could cut it with a saw cleaver. It's a dark, wet, and bloody masterpiece that rewards your patience with the best world design ever. The road mattered more than the destination here, because every shortcut unlocked felt like a huge victory.
8. Red Dead Redemption 2. I'm just gonna say it, Arthur Morgan is the best protagonist ever written. Red Dead Redemption 2 isn't just a game, it's a living, breathing simulation of the death of the Old West. Rockstar's attention to detail is borderline scary. The way the snow deforms, the way your horse reacts to a snake, the way Arthur's beard grows. It forces you to slow down and actually live in 1899. The gameplay is heavy and deliberate. Everything from looting a cabinet to cleaning your repeater has a physical animation. Some people find it slow, but for me, that's the magic. It builds a memory of a life lived. The impactful emotion hits you in the quiet moments, like sitting by the fire, listening to Dutch's latest plan while the gang sings. That's when I realized something was different. I wasn't just playing an outlaw, I was mourning a way of life. The only downside is that the mission design can be super rigid. If you move 5 feet away from where the game wants you, it's a mission failed. But that's a small price to pay for a 60-hour tragedy that stays with you forever. It is the gold standard of open-world storytelling. If you haven't lived Arthur's story, you haven't seen what this medium is truly capable of. 9. Elden Ring. What can I even say about Elden Ring that hasn't been said? It's a miracle of game design. From Software took the Souls formula and dropped it into a world that actually respects your curiosity. The sensation of discovery here is unmatched. You see a weird tower in the distance? You can go there. There are no map icons screaming at you. You just explore. The memory of finding Seifer River, a whole galaxy hidden underground, is a jaw-on-the-floor moment. The gameplay is the gold standard. Whether you're a heavy knight or a mage, the build variety is insane. Every boss is a massive event that tests your skill and your patience. That's when I realized something was different. When I realized that losing wasn't failing, it was learning. The impactful emotion of finally overcoming a boss like Malenia after 50 tries is a high that other games just can't provide. It's hard, yes, it will kick your teeth in, and the lack of a traditional quest log can be confusing if you aren't paying attention, but that's the beauty of it. It treats you like an adult. It's a hauntingly beautiful, punishing, and profoundly rewarding masterpiece. It's not just a game, it's a monument to what this medium can achieve. Number 10, Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. I'll be honest, I didn't expect a 2D side-scroller to be one of the best games of 2024, but The Lost Crown is a masterpiece of the Metroidvania genre. The gameplay is so fluid. Sargon's movement and the time powers make the combat feel like a high-speed, lethal dance. The platforming puzzles are some of the most creative I've seen in years, especially when you start combining air dashes with clones. The sensation of exploring Mount Koth is incredible. The world design is tight, and the memory shards, which let you take a screenshot of a location and pin it to your map, is a genius feature that every game in this genre needs to steal immediately. The villains are actually compelling, and the story has some surprising twists to keep you hooked. It feels like a modern evolution of the Prince of Persia identity. If I have to be critical, some of the side quests are a bit fetchy, and the difficulty spikes on the bosses can be brutal if you aren't prepared, but the sheer joy of the movement is enough to carry the whole experience. The road mattered more than the destination here, because mastering Sargon's kit was so rewarding. It's a tight, polished, and incredibly fun masterpiece. 11. Rise of the Ronin. Team Ninja took their incredible combat expertise and dropped it into an open-world 19th century Japan, and the result is Rise of the Ronin. This game captures the sensation of the Bakumatsu period, the end of the shogunate, and the clash between Eastern tradition and Western influence. You play as a nameless Ronin, and the bond system, where you choose sides between factions, makes the world feel like it's reacting to your presence. The gameplay is where it shines. It's less punishing than Nioh, but deeper than Ghost of Tsushima. Parrying a bullet with your katana and then following up with a grapple hook strike feels amazing. The variety of weapons, from katanas to bayonets, is massive. I didn't expect this moment, but I spent hours just flying around Yokohama on my glider, soaking in the atmosphere of a country on the brink of revolution. The graphics aren't quite as next-gen as some other titles on this list, and the open-world activities can feel a bit traditional, but the combat flow and the historical setting are top tier. By the end, I wasn't the same person. I felt the weight of the political choices I made. It's a deep, rewarding, and highly replayable samurai epic. 12. Cyberpunk 2077. I know the launch was a disaster, but the Cyberpunk 2077 we have now, especially with the Phantom Liberty expansion, is a dream come true. Night City is, without a doubt, the most impressive digital city ever built. I've spent hours just driving around at night, listening to the radio while the neon lights reflect off the wet asphalt. You play as V, but the real star is Johnny Silverhand. Keanu Reeves brings this cynical, punk rock soul to the game that makes your journey feel so much more personal. The gameplay is finally where it needs to be. Whether you're a netrunner melting brains from across the street or a solo with mantis blades slicing through goons, the combat is fast and visceral. The story is a high-speed chase through the dark side of technology, and it's surprisingly emotional. The characters like Panam and Judy feel like actual friends by the time the credits roll. The only downside? The world can still feel a bit static once you finish the main quests, but the sheer style and the vibe of this game are unmatched. This didn't feel like progress, it felt like distance. As I got deeper into the conspiracy, the city felt larger and more dangerous. It's a gritty, neon-soaked masterpiece that proves CD Projekt Red knows how to tell a world-class story. Number 13, The Last of Us Part 1. Look, I know we've all seen the show and played the original, but The Last of Us Part 1, the remake, is the definitive way to experience this story. The sensation of the overgrown, quiet ruins of America is so much more heavy with these updated graphics. You play as Joel, and watching his cold, broken exterior slowly melt away because of Ellie is the ultimate impactful emotion. It's not just a zombie game, it's a study on what it means to be a father when you've lost everything. The gameplay in this version feels way more grounded. The AI is smarter, and every encounter with a clicker feels like a desperate struggle for air. That's when I realized something was different. I wasn't just playing for the action anymore, I was playing because I felt a physical need to get Ellie to safety. The memory of the ranch house scene or the giraffes in Salt Lake City, man, it hits just as hard the 10th time as it did the first. My only nitpick is that if you've played the original recently, the price tag might feel a bit steep. But for the sheer technical polish and the most human acting ever put into a game, it's a masterpiece. By the end, I wasn't the same person. It's a brutal, beautiful, and essential journey that every single person who picks up a controller needs to finish. 14. Resident Evil 4 Remake.
Capcom is on an absolute tear lately, and Resident Evil 4 Remake is the crown jewel. They took a game that was already perfect and somehow made it feel fresh. You play as Leon S. Kennedy, and the sensation of being trapped in that creepy Spanish village is just peak survival horror. The combat is a crunchy, tactical dance. Leon is more agile, but the enemies are smarter and more aggressive. Parrying a chainsaw with a combat knife? It's the coolest thing you'll do all year. The gameplay pacing is flawless. It moves from claustrophobic horror to high-octane action without ever missing a beat. I loved how they fleshed out the villains like Lewis and Krauser. It made the stakes feel much more personal. I didn't expect this moment, but I found myself actually caring about Ashley's growth this time around. She feels like a real partner in the nightmare, not just a rescue mission. It's got that perfect just one more chapter loop. My only tiny gripe, I missed some of the cheesier lines from the original, but the darker tone totally works. The road mattered more than the destination because the journey through the castle and the island is so densely packed with wow moments. It's a masterclass in how to respect the past while defining the future. 15. Clair Obscur Expedition 33. This is the newest heavy hitter on the list, and man, Clair Obscur Expedition 33 is a literal work of art. The sensation of the world is like walking through a high-end French painting. You're part of a doomed expedition trying to stop the paintress before she wipes out the last of humanity. It's surreal, it's beautiful, and it's profoundly sad. The gameplay is a genius evolution of turn-based combat. It's reactive. You have to time your dodges and parries in real time, which keeps you totally engaged. The impactful emotion comes from the fact that your characters know they are on a suicide mission. This didn't feel like progress, it felt like distance. Every step closer to the paintress felt like a step further away from any hope of a normal life. The world design is so original that it makes every other fantasy game look a bit boring. It's a bit of a slow burn at first, and the mechanics take a minute to master, but once it clicks, it's addictive. It's a haunting, high-art masterpiece that proves turn-based RPGs can still be the most exciting games on the shelf. 16. Kena, Bridge of Spirits. Don't let the cute Pixar-style graphics fool you. Kena Bridge of Spirits will kick your teeth in. It's a beautiful, melancholic journey about a spirit guide helping restless souls move on. The sensation of the forest world is magical, and the little rot creatures you collect are adorable, but the impactful emotion in the stories of the spirits you help is genuinely moving. The gameplay is surprisingly tough. The boss fights are legit Souls-like challenges that require perfect timing and strategy. That's when I realized something was different. I thought I was playing a cozy game, but I was actually in for a deep mechanical action adventure. The memory of purifying a corrupted area and seeing the forest spring back to life is so rewarding. If I have to be honest, the combat can feel a little limited in the first few hours until you unlock more abilities. But once you have the bow and the bombs, it's a blast. It's a small, focused masterpiece from an indie studio that looks and plays better than most AAA games. It's a short but perfect journey about grief and letting go. 17. Horizon Forbidden West. Look, I'm a sucker for a good sci-fi mystery, and Horizon Forbidden West is basically a masterclass in world building. Stepping into the ruins of the old world as Aloy creates this haunting sensation of exploring a graveyard of our own future. The scale of the machines this time, like the Tremor Tusk or the Slaughter Spine, it's intimidating. I remember the first time I went underwater in this game. The lighting and the detail in the submerged ruins of San Francisco actually made me hold my breath. The gameplay is a tactical dream. You aren't just shooting arrows, you're systematically dismantling gods made of steel.
Using the Pullcaster to zip around the environment and then landing a critical hit on a machine's weak spot is pure dopamine. But the impactful emotion hits when you see Aloy's shell start to crack. She's so focused on saving the world that she almost forgets how to be a person, and watching her finally let her friends in is a 10 out of 10 character arc. My only tiny gripe, the grind for legendary upgrades can feel a bit like a second job if you're a completionist. But honestly, here you feel that your money was worth it because the sheer production value is untouchable. Whether you're soaring through the clouds on a Sunling or fighting a rebel camp, it's a visual and narrative masterpiece. This is the kind of game you don't forget. 18. Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut. I've saved the most aesthetic game for last. Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut is more than just a samurai game. It's a love letter to Japanese cinema. The sensation of the guiding wind blowing through red maple leaves while you ride your horse toward a duel is pure poetry. You play as Jin Sakai, and the weight of his choice between his samurai honor and the dishonorable tactics of the ghost is a struggle I felt in my gut. The gameplay is razor sharp. The swordplay is rhythmic, lethal, and incredibly satisfying. But with the director's cut, you get the Iki Island expansion, and man, that story is personal. It dives into Jin's past and his relationship with his father in a way that adds so much depth to the main game. That's when I realized something was different. I wasn't just clearing a map, I was reclaiming a home. The memory of that final duel under the white pampas grass is a core gaming memory for me. The side activities can be a bit repetitive. I've followed a lot of foxes, guys, but the atmosphere is so thick it doesn't even matter. On PS5, with the 60 FPS and the DualSense haptics, you feel every clash of steel. By the end, I wasn't the same person. I was the Ghost of Tsushima. It is a stunning, emotional, and flawlessly executed masterpiece. If you haven't lived this story yet, you need to fix that immediately. This is the kind of game you don't forget. And there you have it, guys. 18 masterpieces that I truly believe define what gaming can be. These aren't just titles you play to pass the time, they are experiences that stick to your ribs and change the way you look at a story. But hey, a masterpiece is in the eye of the beholder. Which of these 18 games is the one you'd play again for the first time if you could? Or did I leave out a game that you think is a true 10 out of 10? Drop a comment below and let's talk about it. I'm always looking for the next game to ruin my life.